Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a fresh copy of The Few and the Cursed by Rock Manor Games. In A Few of the Cursed, each player plays as a curse chaser. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic Earth where most of the water has been gone for 70 years, and due to the lack of water, the world has turned into a little like the Old West. But you are a curse chaser and you're looking to find supernatural artifacts, as well as completing jobs or bounty hunting and traversing the desert of the Pacific Ocean, accruing new cards forming a better deck. This is a deck building sandbox game where you can choose what and where to go whenever you would like. Players will be trying to gain the most grit at the end of the game by capturing bounties, attempting encounters, robbing other players, collecting powerful artifacts, and or completing jobs. The player with the most grit at the end of the game wins. The board is set up and all curse chasers will start in the middle at San Andreas. Players each have their own character with its own deck. Each deck is asymmetrical and even might have more or less cards than another player. Your player board will list your character's ability, their bullet or attack ratio, meaning they can use that many bullets to gain an attack value of what's listed on the other side when attacking, and also its stats, money or water as they are the same in the game, health, bullets, and curses. Each player has a bullet threshold where you will only be able to hold so many, but you can upgrade to carry more. All players also start at 0 on the curse track, and you can also move the curse threshold up with upgrades. But when the marker lines up with the threshold, the player will become cursed and will flip over their player card to have a new bullet to attack ratio, and most likely no character ability anymore. Of course, you might want to become cursed as it might make your bullet to attack ratio better, but don't push your luck too much, because whenever you increase on your curse track while cursed, then you will suffer 1 damage, moving your health down 1 spot. Players will check out all the options of different characters to play in the game and choose one to play as. Now let's get to the gameplay. You will start by shuffling your deck and drawing the top 4 cards, and at any time when your deck is empty, you will reshuffle your discard pile, and then you will have to move your character back to San Andreas wherever you are on the board during that cleanup phase. So just know that you will be running out to places out on the map, but if you run out of cards, then you'll be brought back. There is an action to help you also stay out longer that I'll talk about later, but without doing that action, you will be taken back to this San Andreas. Players will use their cards to gain resources of different types: water, movement, attack, or curses, or whatever is listed on the cards. When playing, you can always spend bullets to generate more attack at any time during your turn, but your movement and your attack cannot be stored for future rounds. Play will start with the player that has the first player token, and it proceeds in a clockwise order over and over until the game end is triggered. The first phase of your turn is the improvise phase, where you will look at the top 2 cards from the upgrade deck and choose one to add to your hand, with the other one being discarded. These cards will give you more resources when played and will give you additional effects listed on the bottom. Next is the encounter phase. This phase is different depending on if you're in San Andreas or not. If you are in San Andreas, then you'll be able to visit the job board, or you can visit the store. If you take a job, then you'll take the card and you'll keep it in front of you until you complete it. The rewards are listed on the top while the requirement is listed on the bottom. You will need to spend the listed resources to accomplish the job, and then you will gain the rewards. Shopping at the store lets you spend money to take one of the store cards, to buy bullets, and or to upgrade your character. To upgrade your character, you'll follow this chart in whatever area you'd like to upgrade. You can do as many upgrades or stuff that you would like as long as you have enough money to do so. Store cards list the price on the top left, the effect on the bottom left, and the storage location on the bottom right. Each player has 2 accessory slots and 2 hands. Once your slots are filled, you can always replace items with others. You can also take 1 refresh action per store visit to refresh the store cards, giving you access to different cards. If you happen to be outside of San Andreas during this phase, then you will draw an encounter card. Now, if you are on a space with a cursed icon, then you will draw a cursed encounter card. When looking at the normal encounter cards, you will then perform the listed action depending on your location on the map. For the cursed encounter cards, you will have a situation and you will get to choose one of the 3 outcomes that will change your resources or whatever it says. After the encounter phase is the action phase, where you will spend most of your turn. Movement will be the main way to navigate the game map. You'll need to take the roads with symbols on it, and these symbols are the cost for moving from one space to another. All roads require movement and at times other costs. If the road has a curse icon on it, then it will increase you on your curse track. If the road has an attack icon and you don't want to use an attack or you don't have one, then you can still move through it, but you will take 1 damage for doing so. When you are where you want to be, you can take your 1 action for this phase, and if you have any more movement, you can move or continue moving after. So since you can only take 1 action per round, you will need to plan what you're going to do. So you can recover an artifact by going to one of the 4 locations and choosing one of the artifact cards still available. And you can only take 1 artifact from each of these locations. Another option is to draw another encounter card based on your location since you are outside of San Andreas. If you are outside, then you can also defeat a bounty by spending the attack value shown on that card. The attack value can be a combination of your cards and converting bullets to more attack. The reward of the bounty is listed on the bottom of the card. You also have this area here on the board where you have wanted enemies, and this other side is where you have most wanted bounties. The wanted bounties can be defeated up to 2 times if you have enough attack to do so. After the first time defeating these enemies, you will flip the card over, and these cards are always available to fight and are never discarded, unlike those most wanted bounties, which are harder to fulfill but give you a better reward. Monsters will randomly appear in each most wanted decks, and they will be placed on specific locations and move around the board. If a monster ever ends up entering San Andreas, then it will trigger the end of the game. Other actions you can take is you can rob another player. You will need to have an attack value equal to double their current health, and you will be able to spend that much attack, also gaining 2 curses, and then gaining grit and money equal to the opponent's current health value. The player who gets robbed will lose 1 health. You can instead take your unique character action listed on your character card, and lastly, you can use your action to camp. When you use this camp action, you will shuffle your deck, including the cards in your play area, the discarded cards, and cards in your hand, and then you will gain 1 health. Now, because you camped, you won't have to return to San Andreas during the cleanup phase, so you can stay out and do whatever you're planning to do. But when you perform this action, it will end your turn. After you're done taking an action and performing the action phase, you will do the cleanup phase by discarding the cards that you played, also choosing to discard any in your hand, and draw back up to 4. You can also keep onto cards so that you only need to draw 1 or 2 cards if that is what you choose. If you reshuffled your deck during the past round, then you will automatically return to San Andreas. Any monsters on the board will then move 1 step closer to San Andreas as well. If the monster moves onto a space of another player, then they will lose 1 health. Players take turns, and each round the first player token is passed counterclockwise for the next round, so the last player will become the first player for the next round. When playing the game and a player reaches 21 grit and there's been no monsters that have come out on the board, then that player will choose a pile, they will find the monster card, and they will place it on top. The game ends whenever 3 monsters have been defeated, or if all artifacts have been recovered. If a monster ends a round in San Andreas. Players will then add up their score from their jobs, losing grit for each job that they didn't complete, and then players will gain grit from their artifact cards, and the player with the most grit wins the game. So this game is a fun sandbox game that reminds me a little bit of Clank. Lots of people like Clank, and this gives that fun deck building vibe with it. But the game also includes so much more than Clank does. Since it's a sandbox style game, you really can do whatever you would like to gain points. This might be going to a location due to a bounty, or a most wanted bounty, maybe completing a job from the job deck, or finding artifacts from the far off regions of the board. All of these objectives that you have will help you to progress in the game and gain grit, but some might be better than others depending on your character and the present board state that you're dealing with. As you go around doing all these things, you will also be able to upgrade your character by buying items in the store when in San Andreas to equip yourself with something awesome or upgrade your thresholds on your resource tracks. Or when not in San Andreas, you'll be able to encounter random things and make choices as to what the outcomes will be. As you are doing all this, you will be balancing resources of your character, including receiving curses. Curses won't affect you until it passes the curses threshold marker, and you will suddenly have a different character, maybe a different ability, or a different ratio of bullets to attack, as well as you are able to draw from a different deck of cards for your encounters. Being cursed can be both good and bad, but if you continue getting cursed and you are already cursed, then it will damage your health. The deck building aspect of this is nice and streamlined, as you will be gaining a new card every single round, and you're not paying resources to buy cards, but rather than you pay cards in order to move or to fight or to do other stuff. The streamlined rules get a little less streamlined when you discover how sandboxy the game is. You really do have a lot of flexibility to do a lot of stuff, even moving when you don't have a way to attack when needed. You can just move anyways and receive a damage instead. So having health will help you be more flexible in the game. Something that really stands out in this game is that when you run out of cards, you have to return back to San Andreas. So hand management comes into play, and you might decide to use less cards than you normally would because you don't want to return back to the base already. Or maybe you do, so you hurry and use all your cards so that you can go back and visit the store again. But hand management is kind of the star in the game instead of that deck building mechanic. The game includes a lot of this flexible sandbox game that, depending on how many players are playing in the game can swing greatly towards some players while not so great for others. But the game also includes a fair bit of replayability, so you never really know what you're going to get. The game has great components, great art, the theme is there, but might be lacking during the game. The cards try to give you a little bit of more story to feel the theme, but a lot of times you just don't get brought in like the game should. The game is a fun game to just do whatever you want. I mean, create a character however you'd like, and win the game however is best for that session. So make sure that you grab your bullets, water as it's money in the game, and some friends to fight cursed monsters in The Few and the Cursed by Rock Manor Games. Again, this is Boardgame Brody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.